The Book of the Great War. A concise account of the Great War between the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion by Legate Justianus Quintius. Author's note. Much of what is written in this book is pieced together from documents captured from the enemy during the war, interrogation of prisoners, and eyewitness accounts from surviving soldiers and imperial officers. I myself commanded the 10th Legion in Hammerfell and Cyrodiil until I was wounded in 175, during the assault on the imperial city. That said, the full truth of some events may never be known. I have done my best to fill in these gaps with educated conjectures based on my experience as well as my hard-earned knowledge of the enemy. The rise of the Thalmor. Although it is not well known, Somerset Isle suffered from the Oblivion Crisis as much as Cyrodiil did. The elves made war upon the Oblivion invaders, occasionally even crossing over to close down Oblivion gates. As a nation, they had more successes than Cyrodiil did, although the limitless Daedric hordes made the outcome a foregone conclusion. The Thalmor have always been a powerful faction within Somerset Isle, but had also always been a minority voice. During the crisis, the Crystal Tower was forced to give the Thalmor greater power and authority. Their efforts almost certainly saved Somerset Isle from being overrun. They capitalized on their success to seize total control in year 22 of the Fourth Era. They renamed the nation Alinor, which harkens back to an earlier age before the ascendancy of man. Most people outside the Aldmeri Dominion still call it Somerset Isle, either out of peevishness or ignorance. So does that mean that Somerset Isle was previously called Alinor? That's how I understand. In 29, the government of Valenwood was overthrown by Thalmor collaborators and a union with Alinor proclaimed. It appears that Thalmor agents had formed close ties to certain Bosmeri factions even before the Oblivion Crisis. So that's how Valenwood became independent. The Empire and its Bosmer allies, caught completely off guard, were quickly defeated by the much better prepared Altmer forces that invaded Valenwood on the heels of the coup. Thus was the Aldmeri Dominion reborn. Shortly afterward, the Aldmeri Dominion severed all contact with the Empire. What? Shortly afterward, the Aldmeri Dominion severed all contact with the Empire. For 70 years they were silent. Most scholars believe there was the same sort of internal strife in Alinor, but very little is known of the factional struggles that went on inside the Dominion while the Thalmor consolidated its power in Somerset and Valenwood. In 98, the two moons, Master and Secunda, vanished. Oh, these moons are very important to the Khajiit. They are something like gods to us. Within most of the Empire, this was viewed with trepidation and fear. In elsewhere, it was far worse. Oh yes. Culturally, the moons are much more influential to the Khajiit. That's what I say. After 2 years of the Void Nights, the moons returned. The Thalmor announced that they had restored the moons using previously unknown dawn magics, but it is unclear if they truly restored the moons or just took advantage of foreknowledge that they would return. Regardless of the truth of the matter, the Khajiit credited the Thalmor as their saviors. Within 15 years, imperial influence in elsewhere had so diminished that the Empire was unable to respond effectively to the coup of 115, which dissolved the Elsewhere Confederacy and recreated the ancient kingdoms of Anequia and Palatine. Ah, Anequia and Palatine. I think these are the kingdoms before the men and mer become powerful in Tamriel. Anequina and Palatine. I think it's that way. Once more, the Empire failed to stop the advance of Thalmor power. When Titus Mede II ascended the throne in 168, he inherited a weakened empire. The glory days of the Septims were a distant memory. Valenwood and elsewhere were gone, ceded to Thalmor enemy. Black Marsh had been lost to imperial rule since the aftermath of the Oblivion Crisis. Morrowind had never recovered fully from the eruption of Mount Vardenfell. Hammerfell was plagued by infighting between crowns and forebears. Only High Rock, Cyrodiil, and Skyrim remained prosperous and peaceful. The Empire has shrunk to 3 states, Cyrodiil, High Rock, and Skyrim, and now Skyrim is letting go. Emperor Titus Mede had only few short years to consolidate his rule before his leadership was put to the ultimate test. The war begins. On the 30th of Frostfall 171, the Aldmeri Dominion sent an ambassador to the imperial city with a gift in a covered card and an ultimatum for the new emperor. The long list of demands included staggering tributes, disbandment of the Blades, yes, outlawing the worship of Talos, and ceding large sections of Hammerfell to the Dominion. Despite the warnings of his generals of the Empire's military weakness, Emperor Titus Mede II rejected the ultimatum. The Thalmor ambassador appended the cart, spilling over 100 heads on the floor. Oh, so that was the surprise. That cart as a gift, or whatever. Yeah, cart with a gift. I should sleep. Cart with 100 heads on the floor. Every Blades agent in Somerset and Valenwood. A nice gift indeed for the Imperials. And so began the Great War, which would consume the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion for the next 5 years. That's good. I don't like Empire, but I don't like the Aldmeri Dominion either. The Aldmers want just as much power or even more power than the Empire has or had. And that's not good. I think both should back off and let us, Khajiit, rule a bit more. So it was only good that they warred between that there is war between Aldmeri and Empire. Within days, Aldmeri armies invaded Hammerfell and Cyrodiil simultaneously. A strong force commanded by the Thalmor general Lord Narifin attacked Cyrodiil from the south, marching out of hidden camps in northern Elsweyr and flanking the imperial defences along the Valenwood border. Leawin soon fell to the invaders, while Bravil was cut off and besieged. At the same time, an Aldmeri army under Lady Aranelia crossed into western Cyrodiil from Valenwood, bypassing Anvil and Kvatch and crossing into Hammerfell. Smaller Aldmeri forces landed along the south coastline of Hammerfell. The disunited Redguard forces offered only scattered resistance to the invaders, and much of the southern coastline was quickly overrun. The greatly outnumbered Imperial legions retreated across the Alikr Desert in the now famous March of Thirst. Where is this Alikr Desert? Alikr Desert. It's a desert, it's not desert. Alikr Desert. I don't know that. I know all the other places, but not Alikr Desert. Fourth Era, 172 to 173, the Aldmeri advance into Cyrodiil. It appears now that the initial Aldmeri objective was in fact the conquest of Hammerfell, and that the invasion of Cyrodiil was intended only to pin down the Imperial legions while Hammerfell was overrun. However, the surprising initial success of Lord Narifin's attack led the Thalmor to believe that the Empire was weaker than they had thought. The capture of the Imperial city itself and the complete overthrow of the Empire thus became their primary objective of the next 2 years. As we know, the Thalmor nearly achieved their objective. It was only because of our Emperor's determined leadership during the Empire's darkest hour that this disaster was averted. During 172, the Aldmeri advanced deeper into Cyrodiil. Bravil and Anvil both fell to the invaders. By the end of the year, Lord Narifin had advanced to the very walls of the Imperial city. There were fierce naval clashes in Lake Rumar and along the Nibben as the Imperial forces attempted to hold the eastern bank. In Hammerfell, the Thalmor were content to consolidate their gains as they took control of the whole southern coastline, which was in fact their stated objective in the ultimatum delivered to the Emperor. Haha! They refused the ultimatum and still lose what they had to lose in the ultimatum. Or a part of it, at least. Of the southern cities, only Hegathe still held out. The survivors of the March of Thirst regrouped in northern Hammerfell, joined by reinforcements from High Rock. The year 173 saw stiffening imperial resistance in Cyrodiil, but the seemingly inexorable Aldmeri advance continued. Fresh legions from Skyrim bolstered the Emperor's main army in the Imperial city, but the Aldmeri forced the crossing of the Nibben and began advancing in force up the eastern bank. By the end of the year, the Imperial city was surrounded on 3 sides. Only the northern supply route to Bruma remained open. In Hammerfell, Imperial fortunes took a turn for the better. In early 173, a forebear army from Sentinel broke the siege of Hegathe, a crown city, leading to the reconciliation of the two factions. Despite this, Lady Aranelia's main army succeeded in crossing the Alikr Desert. So Lady Aranelia is again the Aldmeri force. She crossed the Alikr Desert, and the Imperial legions under General Decianus met them outside Skaven in a bloody and indecisive clash. Decianus withdrew and left Aranelia in possession of Skaven, but the Aldmeri were too weakened to continue their advance. Fourth Era 174, the sack of the Imperial city. In 74, the Thalmor leadership committed all available forces to the campaign in Cyrodiil, gambling on a decisive victory to end the war once and for all. During the spring, Aldmeri reinforcements gathered in southern Cyrodiil, and on 12th of Second Seed, they launched a massive assault on the Imperial city itself. One army drove north to completely surround the city, while Lord Narifin's main force attacked the walls from the south, east and west. The Emperor's decision to fight his way out of the city rather than make a last stand was a bold one. No general dared advise him to abandon the capital, but Titus II was proven right in the end. While the 8th Legion fought a desperate and doomed Redguard action on the walls of the city, Titus II broke out of the city to the north with his main army, smashing through the surrounding Aldmeri forces and linking up with the reinforcements marching south from Skyrim under General Jonna. Meanwhile, however, the capital fell to the invaders and infamous sack of the Imperial city began. The Imperial palace was burned, the white gold tower itself looted, and all manner of atrocities carried out by the vengeful elves on the innocent populace. War is war. In Hammerfell, General Decianus was preparing to drive the Aldmeri back from Skyrim when he was ordered to march for Cyrodiil. Unwilling to abandon Hammerfell completely, he allowed a great number of invalids to be discharged from the legions before they marched east. These veterans formed the core of the army that eventually drove Lady Aranelia's forces back across Alikr, late in 174, taking heavy losses on their retreat from harassing attacks by the Alikr's warriors. So cruel are the empires. They let the wounded and crippled veterans fight in Hammerfell and make it a victory with great losses. So, well, yeah, all right. The Battle of the Red Ring in 4th Era 175. During the winter of 74-75, the Thalmor seemed to have believed that the war in Cyrodiil was all but over. They made several attempts to negotiate with Titus II. The emperor encouraged them in their belief that he was preparing to surrender. Meanwhile, he gathered his forces to retake the imperial city. Such are the imperials. You cannot trust them in war or peace. In what is known as the Battle of the Red Ring, a battle that will serve as a model for imperial strategists for generations to come, Titus II divided his forces into three. One army with the legions from Hammerfell under General Decianus was hidden in the Colovian highlands near Corl. The Aldmeri were unaware that he was no longer in Hammerfell, possibly because the imperial veterans Decianus had left behind led Lady Aranelia to believe that she still faced an imperial army. The second army, largely of Nord legions under General Jonna, took up position near Chedenhall. The main army was commanded by the emperor himself and would undertake the main assault to the imperial city from the north. On the 30th of Rain's Hand, the bloody Battle of the Red Ring began as General Decianus swept down on the city from the west, while General Jonna's legionnaires drove south along the Red Ring Road. In a two-day assault, Jonna's army crossed the Niben and advanced west, attempting to link up with Decianus's legions and thus surround the imperial city. Lord Narifin was taken by surprise by Decianus's assault, but Jonna's troops faced bitter resistance at the Aldmeri, as the Aldmeri counterattacked from Bravil and Skingrad. The heroic Nord legionnaires held firm, however, beating off the piecemeal Aldmeri attacks. By the 5th day of the battle, the Aldmeri army in the imperial city was surrounded. Titus II led the assault from the north, personally capturing Lord Narifin. It is rumored that the emperor wielded the famed sword Goldbrand, although this has never been officially confirmed by the imperial government. An attempt by the Aldmeri to break out of the city to the south was blocked by the unbreakable shield wall of General Jonna's battered legions. In the end, the main Aldmeri army in Cyrodiil was completely destroyed. They didn't take any prisoners, they just see... they are so cruel, these Imperials. I hate them so deeply. The Emperor's decision to withdraw from the Imperial city in 174 was bloodily vindicated. Yeah, it was bloodily vindicated, but too bloodily for me. Lord Narifin was kept alive for 33 days, hanging from the White Gold Tower. These Imperials are cruel beasts. They are not humans. It is not recorded where his body was buried, if it was buried at all. One source claims he was carried off by a winged Daedra on the 34th day. He hanging from the White Gold Tower, kept alive for 33 days. The White Gold concorded at the end of the war. Although victorious, the imperial armies were in no shape to continue the war. The entire remaining imperial force was gathered in Cyrodiil, exhausted and decimated by the Battle of the Red Ring. Not a single legion had more than half its soldiers fit for duty. 2 legions had been effectively annihilated, not counting the loss of the eighth during the retreat from the imperial city the previous year. Titus II knew that there would be no better time to negotiate peace, and late in 175 the Empire and the Aldmeri Dominion signed the White Gold Concordat, ending the Great War. The terms were harsh, but Titus II believed that it was necessary to secure peace and give the Empire a chance to regain its strength. Oh God. The 2 most controversial terms of the Concordat were the banning of the worship of Talos and the cession of a large section of southern Hammerfell. Oh, most of what was already occupied by Aldmeri forces. Critics have pointed out that the Concordat is almost identical to the ultimatum Emperor rejected 5 years earlier. And this the Imperials call a success and a marvelous example of warring strategy. I don't believe it. Fools. However, there is a great difference between agreeing to such terms under the mere threat of war and agreeing to them at the end of a long and destructive war. Well, that's true, yes, but still, it's ridiculous. So many lives wasted. No part of the Empire would have accepted these terms in 171, dictated by the Thalmor at Sword's Point. Okay, they pay for their pride. Titus II would have faced civil war, of course, but the civil war would have would have taken less lives than this. But I mean, I don't care. Aldmeri, they are not better than Imperials. I mean, they want the dominion in Tamriel. Imperials want the dominion in Tamriel. If both clash, both get weak, and so one day the Khajiit nation will rise again. Yeah, I'm really a Khajiit nationalist. Empire, by 175, most of the Empire welcomed peace at almost any price, of course. Epilogue. Hammerfell fights on alone. Hammerfell, however, refused to accept the White Gold Concordat, being unwilling to concede defeat and the loss of so much of their territory. Titus was forced to officially renounce Hammerfell as an imperial province in order to preserve the hard-won peace treaty. So they lose Hammerfell completely, or just Titus is now to say, well, Hammerfell, okay, you're not longer part of the Empire, but fight on your own if you want to fight. That's how I understand this. The Red Guards, understandably, looked on this as a betrayal. In this, the Thalmor certainly achieved one of their long-term goals by sowing lasting bitterness between Hammerfell and the Empire. That's great, so Aldmeri actually helped the Empire to fall apart. I think a really fourth era is starting with great changes. Maybe at the end of the fourth era, or maybe quite sooner. Maybe it's a matter of decades until the Empire loses its leading position. Anyway, in the end, the heroic Red Guards fought the Aldmeri Dominion to a standstill. Although the war lasted for 5 more years and left southern Hammerfell devastated. The Red Guards say that this proves that the White Gold Concordat was unnecessary, and that if Titus II had kept his nerve, the Aldmeri could have been truly defeated by the combined forces of Hammerfell and the rest of Empire. Well, luckily this didn't happen. The truth of this assertion can of course never be known. So the Red Guards should not forget the great sacrifice of imperial blood, Breton, Nord and Cyrodiilic, at the Battle of the Red Ring that weakened the Dominion. Enough to allow the eventual Second Treaty of Stros M'Kai in 4th Era 180 and the withdrawal of Aldmeri forces from Hammerfell. I remember this name Stros Mackay from Redguard in the Elder Scrolls series. I'm not certain. I'm not sure about that, but I've read it somewhere. Stros Mackay. There can be no doubt that the current peace cannot last forever. The Thalmor take the long view, as proved by the sequence of events leading to the Great War. All those who value freedom over tyranny can only hope that before it is too late, Hammerfell and the Empire will be reconciled and stand united against the Thalmor threat. Otherwise, any hope to stem the tide of Thalmor rule over all of Tamriel is dimmed. It is dimmed. Why? Any hope? Otherwise, any hope to stem. Yeah, okay, so the Imperial influence vanishes and Thalmor are getting more and more power. I think I should help to get rid of the Imperials, but Thalmor, I don't know how much I can do about that.